G'day folks, as you would have seen in my last video, we went through the Blue Eddy system for the new build. I've actually got something on this rig that I'll be carrying across to the next new build, the tow rig that we are doing right now. And because I can't show you that, we're looking at the Ranger. But it actually makes perfect sense because those things that are going on the next build, well, they're actually being pilfered off this rig right here. Can you guess what they are? They are, of course, the Radar Renegade RT Plus tyres. Now, I've gotten quite lucky because these exact tyres, this very size and everything, will fit straight onto the new rig, carrying with it all its amazing load rating and longevity that we love about these tyres. So let's get further into this and explain why we've chosen to bring the RT Pluses with us on our next lap of Australia. When it comes to tyres, you should never be just choosing them based on one sole factor. There should always be a myriad, a cluster of them that helps you make the decision to throw these on your rig and take them around the country when you're going as remote as we do. And speaking of remote, that's one of the big reasons that we're choosing the RT Pluses again, because we had them everywhere remote, everywhere inhospitable in Australia that you can imagine. These tyres have done it. Well, not these ones specifically, because these are a brand new set, but our old set, which we got well over 100,000 kilometres from. So insane longevity. And we'll get into more about how I achieved that later on in the video. But let's get back to the reasons you choose these tyres. First up, the durability. These things are insanely durable, especially in heat, which is amazing because these are more of a winterized tyre than you'd expect. So it's really quite a compelling case when you can see a tyre that performs so well in the cold, as you see in the States, and then comes out here and performs so well in the heat. I've had these thrown down the same roads that I've watched other big name tyres delaminate from the heat on, using the same pressures, the same weight and everything, and these have given me absolutely no issues. So it's another use case scenario in our favour. The Radar Renegade RT Plus tyres walk a very fine line between a full-blown aggressive sort of all-terrain and a less aggressive mud terrain. They sit somewhere in the middle of that. They're quite the hybrid tyre, which makes them absolutely perfect for what we like to do. Generally, I'd say if you're touring Australia, you don't want a full-blown mud tyre. The times that we need something like that, that really aggressive tread, are actually few and far between. You spend a lot of your time on bitumen, a lot of your time on sort of well-manicured gravel roads, and that's where these things really stand up. But if you're talking about bitumen, then these are one of the best tyres genuinely to run on bitumen because they are super, super quiet and super grippy. And where these tyres would generally come undone, and I'm talking about the size of this tyre, is in the wet, where you're getting a whole lot of aquaplaning, a lot of skidding when you're braking, the back stepping out in corners, and that just doesn't happen in this rig with these tyres. So in terms of safety and comfortability on the road, that is a massive plus. Now, the tread pattern on these is amazing. It ejects stones really, really well. In fact, the whole sort of from here back is on the U is peppered with stone chips because these things just get rid of the stones so well. They also, because of that, means that they eject mud really well and water from the sipes and all of that. Sand is what these tyres love, which is great because in Australia we have plenty of it. I reckon we've got like 90% of the sand grains in the world right here on our beaches and our deserts. So having them really at home there is going to be great. And in the next rig, I'm really hoping that's where they come into their own because traction is going to be very important on that build. So the tread, the way that it lasts, the way that it's been designed is perfect for our Aussie conditions. And that's not just me saying that having read the brochure, that's me saying that having done well over 100,000 Ks of our toughest roads with these tyres. In Australia, we build our rigs to be big and heavy. I mean, that's not the aim, but that is definitely one of the unfortunate outcomes. So load rating on your tyres is super important. Now, these tyres in this size have a load rating of 135 Q, which means you're getting 2.1 tonnes load rating per tyre at a speed rating of 160 kilometres an hour, which is well faster than we'll ever be going. So that's perfect for us. You really do want it to be over-engineered when it comes to load rating, which is just going to lead to cooler temperatures when you're operating on the road and on the rough stuff. If you'd like an idea of where these tyres have gotten me, there really isn't a desert in Australia that they haven't touched and conquered. But one of my favourite journeys was out to a small town in WA called Wingalina. It's a very special part of corner country and it doesn't come easily. It is a place so remote that more people have been to the South Pole than have bothered to travel there. And on that route that we took through all the back roads and absolute carnage that we discovered, the tyres were our saving grace. They got us through completely unscathed, which is super important because if you can't trust the things that are connecting you to the ground, what can you really trust at all? Now, as great as these tyres are, there are things that you need to do to help maintain them and really get that durability and longevity out of them. which are these. So number one is the obvious one, tire pressures. They change all the time. Well, they should be, because you should be changing them. So that means matching them to whatever terrain you're tackling and then making sure that that's actually the right fit. Now, you might say that the best PSI for a gravel road, say, is 26 pound in the tires. But if you're on that road and you're doing 26 and you find you need to drop more out, then drop more out. It's not a linear thing. There's no real defined rules. It's doing what works for you and the tire. So tire pressures, matching them to the terrain that you're on, is key number one to longevity from the Radar Renegades. Number two is wheel alignment. If your wheels aren't correctly aligned, then they're just going to be sort of pushed along the road, causing big sidewall rub outs and all sorts of things that you really don't want. I would say that is the leading cause of premature wear on any tire. So having correctly aligned tires, having them all pointing in the straightest line possible, is absolutely critical to getting the most life out of your tires. Number three is wheel rotations. I service this rig religiously every 5,000 kilometers. And every 7,500 kilometers, I take these tires off and rotate them around the rig, making sure that I'm getting even wear across all of them. And if there is any uneven wear, I'm putting the best tires as my steer tires. It's just best practice for safety and longevity. Now, number four really is all down to you. You are steering this ship, so steer it properly. That means avoiding sharp rocks, deep potholes, and all of those sorts of things that are only going to scratch and try to annihilate your tire. A big killer is roots sticking out the side of big ruts and tracks like that, especially when you're dropping into water crossings and you can't quite see what's there. That's when you're going to cop carnage, not just to the tire, but to the wheel as well. So picking the right line, super important. And finally, number five is making sure that you are working within the confines of the load limit for your tire, so not overloading them. The more weight that you throw on there, especially if it's over what it's rated for, well, you can't be annoyed if something breaks, because that's all on you. Pretty much all the reasons that we love these tires on our tow rig is the same reason we chose to put them on our caravan to be towed by this thing. So we're running the Radar Renegade RT Pluses on the van as well, just in a different size. Now look, if you were lucky enough to be able to scrape it through and have the same size tires and wheels on your van as your tow rig, then you'd be benefiting from the whole thing of having extra spares, interchangeability, all of it. It'd be a great thing. It's not the case for us, but if you could hack it, it would be great. Now, load rating is one of the biggest reasons really that we chose to put the RT Pluses on the van. The van's not light. It's not particularly heavy either, but it is constantly copping abuse in a whole lot of heat, using independent suspension and constantly getting slid off ruts and into sharp sort of spikes and sidewalls and all of that. And that's why we choose to run them predominantly. The RT Pluses have a really strong sidewall, a super strong sidewall, and having a tyre that you know that you can fling off the side of a rut into a sharp route and likely come out without a puncture is a great peace of mind for us. But it's also down, again, to things like those stone ejecting capabilities, the fact that you can drop these tyres down so low and still keep them on the bead and keep going. They've just proven themselves so well on the tow rig, why would you not put them on the van as well? Some useful insights for caravan users, specifically when you're putting RT Pluses on your van, would be that these tyres run very true to size. So a 33 is going to measure 33 inches, which is great, but I can pretty much guarantee the tyres you currently have on your van don't. So if you, for some reason, had a 33 on your van, if you measured it now, I bet you'd be more like a 32 and a bit or something like that. So really does pay to get out there and measure it and make sure you've actually got the clearances, because the tyres on your van will have been designed to fit in that hole that the van came with. So a true 33, if you're using that as an example, may not actually fit. So do make sure you're getting the right size, because these run true to size. It could be somewhat contentious that we've chosen to throw such an aggressive tread on something that is only being pulled, not driven, because it's a towed vehicle. But for me, I really stand by the decision, knowing that I can drop these tyres so low, knowing that they're going to stand up to the abuse and the weight and the heat and all of that is the reason that we chose to put them on. But do make sure that they actually match what you're planning to do. Now, there's a whole lot of other tyres that Radar put out, fantastic tyres as well, but I'm talking specifically about the RT Plus. So if you're only traveling on bitumen, then don't bother putting RT Pluses on, because whilst you will absolutely love them and they'll be fantastic, you're not getting the true usability out of them, and there's likely a cheaper tyre that you could put on. Now, To cap this all off, I would say that Radar may not be a brand that you have heard before, but if you look to the American market, they're being run on a whole suite of large trucks over there with great success. The other thing is that you can pretty much guarantee they've been tested against every tyre you have heard of. And in those tests, they've either surpassed it or matched it. And that's exactly what you want from a tyre. It's got to be as good or better than the competition. And that leads me to price. They are perfectly price pointed. Now, there's not much point in going into what each tyre costs because it varies so much with size and all of that. But they are competitively priced and they are easy to find. So that's why I chose to put these tyres on our next build, and it really should answer those questions. Why, when I'm changing everything else, would I choose to take just one thing that's the same with me? Why would I choose to take the tyres? Well, hopefully I've answered that in this video, and I reckon I'm going to have absolutely no regrets. So stay tuned for the build reveal and all the adventures that will come with it.